Hey everyone, I have some more KO2 tips and tricks. Unfortunately, this just crashed and I had to remove every sample, but I'm just whining because I wasn't really going to use any pre-existing samples in this video anyway. So for this one, I'm going to record a few new samples onto the mic, and then I'm going to use those to share the tips that I have for you today. So let's start off by assigning some numbers to these different pads. So I'm going to make this sample 900, 901, 902, 903, and just in case we need 904. So I'm going to start off by recording in a snap. So I'm going to go into sample mode. I'm just going to adjust the mic to be about where I want it. Perfect. And then I'm going to do like a really crappy beatbox, but like, trying my best. And now I'm going to do a little kind of bird sound whistle. And then lastly, I'm going to upset all of my cats by playing the riff from Just Your Fool by Little Walter. So let's give this a try too. Okay, so now that we've got all that done, let's go ahead and start getting to the tips. So the first thing I want to show you is using precise trimming. Let's create a drum kit out of the little kind of beatbox thing that I did. So let's go here and let's find that sound. So it's 901. So I have them all three here. Let's go ahead and adjust the trim so that way this is just the kick. And so the first tip is going to be in sound edit mode. So hit shift and sound. And almost everything I've shared has been something that I've just kind of stumbled across on my own. But this last one I learned in my last video. Somebody left a very helpful comment. And what they pointed out is that if you're in sound edit mode, plus and minus change between the different menus, right? Go from the sound type to the trim to the envelope. Shift and plus, though, will give you very incremental control over the last knob that was turned. So let's say that I want to just dial in the entry point for the sample, the start point. This whole time, I'm kind of pretending like I'm hitting the pad as I'm pressing plus and minus to see, does it feel as responsive as I would expect the drum pad to feel? Okay, here I'm going to turn up the amplitude. I'm going to pitch it down. Going to make sure it's, oops, oh no. Can I undo that? Let's see. Close enough. So let's go back here and let's just pitch it way down. Put the volume up. I'm going to go back into trim mode and let's just see, or back into sound edit mode, and let's just make this last a certain, like a quarter note. Cool. So then here, I'm going to do a very similar process where I'm going to go to edit, and let's go ahead and trim it. Okay, I'm going to pitch it up. I'm going to make it a little quieter, actually. I just realized I meant to do the snare here and not the hi-hat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually copy that pad and paste it here. And then here, I'm just going to go ahead and go back into sound edit mode, and I'm just going to make this the snare sound. Now let's check the pitch. Do we have like a kit now? Let's see. That sounds a little slow to me, so I'm going to edit it. Okay, that seems responsive enough for my purposes at least. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you the second tip, which is going to be replacing a pad quickly by using sound and zero. So let's say that I don't want these pads here anymore. You may have already made the same mistake that I made, which is hitting erase and sound, and that erases it from the entire device. So I recommend just pressing sound and zero and thinking of that as a shortcut. It technically turns it to sound 0, 0, 0, but you only need to hit 0 once. So I'm going to go up here, sound 0, sound 0. And the reason this works is because once you let go of sound, it'll just act like you're playing those pads and not entering in a new number. So let's do that again. Okay, so those are all cleared, and that was just by pressing sound 0 as though it was kind of its own shortcut. Next up, I want to show about how to briefly quantize with the timing button. So right now we're in free mode, which means that the notes are not going to be automatically quantized. I'm going to take a little 2-bar loop here, and I'm just going to play in the hi-hat. Oh, geez, let me restart that. I'm going to undo that, go back here. Change it back to 2. Now, what if I want the hi-hat to be kind of loose like that, but I don't want to change things before I quantize in the kick and the snare? If I hold down timing, it basically gives me this beat repeat. So you're going to want to have it be on 8 or on like something less than 16 or 32, because otherwise this will be a bit fast. Here's what I mean. So if I hold down snare, it'll add it in every 8th note. If you're like me and you tend to play a bit early, you can take advantage of this by holding down timing, and I'm just going to play in a bit of a pattern. So I'll do it in the next loop. So that's just, I think, a very helpful way of being able to quantize or add in at least a few quantized notes without having to enter the timing mode and go to quantize and back and things like that. So I just think that that's kind of a neat little trick, and I've been using that a lot more lately. Okay, this one, I'm just going to call this a bonus tip. It's something that I think people probably already will know about, but I just want to talk about stretching something to a certain number of bars. I showed a bit of this in my last video, but it wasn't like making a loop. So let's talk about actually making a loop with this. So let's first of all put our harmonica loop here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to count how many bars there are. So I'm just going to count to 4, and I'm going to see how many measures or bars there are. I'll be counting with my right hand. So I know that's 4 bars. And so I'm going to try to time stretch it to being 4 bars. But if you didn't know it was 4 bars, usually you can tell anyway. So I've just moved into sound edit mode and over to timing. Now I'm going to press shift and plus, make it bar. You can hear it's a bit fast because it's fitting all 4 bars into a half note right now. It's getting a bit more human there, but still not perfect. Have to go back there to reset it. Now it's sounding pretty spot on, right? And so if I do that, and then I go over to the sound type, and I make it a one-shot, I could make this 4 bars, and I could just make it so at the beginning of every one, it plays that. Now I've got this looping. This is going to sound like crap. So my point here is just that you can basically have like a drum loop or some other type of loop with a certain number of beats or measures or bars, and you can easily kind of program it in and sequence it in so that way the K.O. has like a group devoted to that loop. I just find that pretty helpful to know. Okay, so I want to show you a really extreme example of pitching a sample down. So I'm going to take this very high-pitched sample here with me just making that weird bird whistling noise. Then I'm going to show you, there's the obvious ways of editing it and pitching it down, and then there's the kind of less obvious ways. And you can stack these all together. I would say probably the best way is to go sound and then just pitch it down using the Y knob. This is now an octave lower, and the benefit of doing it this way is that no matter whether this receives MIDI externally or you're playing a pad, it's going to be transposed down an octave, and the other pads here won't be. So that's a really cool advantage of this method. If you wanted to add another octave down, you could always do fader and tune, and then you could make all these octaves play 12 semitones lower, or sorry, all of these pads play an octave lower or 12 semitones lower. However, I think that one of the best ways of doing it is using the keys function and just playing in a different octave and then transposing it even lower using the MIDI root note function. So I'm going to press keys here, and as I hold down keys, it's going to flash a certain pad, and it will tell me that that pad is C4. I'm going to lower this by pressing minus, 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 so we're 3 octaves lower now. We're at C1. I'm saying this pad is C1. And it has a creepy sound now, right? This is a major scale right now. So we have C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Then we have C again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down keys, and I'm going to say, this is my new C1, which means that when I press here, it's going to be C0. So it's going to be yet another octave lower. I'm not sure if you can hear that. Oh, so that's a great example. Because we're transposing it by playing a lower key, if we make any adjustments to the sound, it's going to preview it at its normal pitch, which can be just kind of annoying if you're not used to that. Yeah, what if we hear this and we say, we need it to be weirder and lower? Thankfully, there's a way to do that. So I'm in sound edit mode, and I'm going to go over to MIDI. From here, I'm going to hit Shift, and I'm going to slightly move this Y knob. It says C4, because it's saying that when this pad receives a C4, it's going to assume it is a C4. I'm going to raise this up to a C5. So now it's saying when this pad plays a C4, or sorry, we're going to treat a C5 like a C4. I believe that's what it's saying. So it's yet another octave lower now. Let's do another. And let's do another. I doubt you can hear that. There's no way. I can kind of hear it, but it just sounds like a really weird rumble. But I guess some ways, let me just talk about it. Some ways that you can mess with that, though, is you could then adjust the trim. Okay, it's still just way too low, right? This is dropped by like 4 octaves or something like that. 6 maybe? I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next tip now that you've got an idea of how to extremely shift these. And this last one is for anybody who uses loop mode. So that is not me. I'm going to start off by erasing all 3 of these patterns I've recorded already. Go back here, and I'm just going to unmute this group. I saw the mute thing flashing, which is how I knew it was muted. And I'm just going to play in a pretty basic pattern, I guess. Oh my goodness. All right, let's undo that. Man, that was a bit rough, but that's okay. So we have this. Let's add just like a little melody. Let's mess with one of our sounds. Let's see. Yeah, let's do this. So I'm going to just quickly cut this down. Okay, now let's play this in keys mode. And let's make sure that we have it in key mode here. There we go. And let's pitch it down a bit. Okay, this is probably going to sound awful, but let's give it a try. Boy, that is terrifying sounding. Okay, so an ongoing joke for me is that no matter what, if I'm recording a tutorial, I'm going to make a song I really don't like. I rarely enjoy the ones that I make when I'm doing these examples, but the point of this one is to use this loop function a bit. So let's listen to our little abomination here, and I'm going to hold shift and hit tempo, which is the loop function. So I'm going to start off by playing it. So here I can use plus and minus to move the play head forward. Another way you could do this is let's say you've got it a little smaller. Our shift and plus or minus work here too. So I just move this Y knob. Actually, no, the shift and plus or minus only change where the playhead is. And so if you can follow that little highlighted LED, you can actually keep it up with the playhead, and you can then decide to loop those different parts. Okay, so that's basically everything that I've learned tips and tricks wise since the last time I recorded one of these videos. Thanks again to the commenter who helped me out and told me about the shift and plus or minus. That's made a huge difference. Otherwise, please let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.